Ladies and gents, we are right at the end of the testimonies, anyway, for the inquiry into the use of the Emergencies Act by the Trudeau government. And, well, we were trying to get at the truth. And how much of the truth could we get at when everything is blacked out? So today I have with me Eva Chipiuk to talk about, lawyer for the convoy, to talk about what it is to do with these blacked out, redacted, everything. It seems like you guys have been getting everything last minute when it comes to the evidence and no time to prepare. And then not only that, most of it's blacked out. How is that even a thing?
Yeah, well, and so this is what led to the commotion on Tuesday, is that we had written a motion to get some particular documents unredacted. Because as you've seen, when some of the documents go up on the screen, they're just full of black boxes. And
I've got
you'll
a
see
picture of
that
that right
there is
here. This is the view
beautiful.
today. It was just ridiculous. 2 lines out of a whole page redacted. Glad to see transparency at the inquiry I tweeted out here.
So scroll up again back to it. So there you'll see, from what I can see, section 39 is written there.
Right.
But they also have redactions based on Section 38. They also have redactions based on solicitor-client privilege. They also have redactions based on irrelevance. So they've got all these different and parliamentary privilege. So I think that's one of the Section 38, 39. But anyway,
Right.
What was going on is that the commission has basically demanded that if we have a motion, it has to be done in writing, which is, in my opinion, a little bit absurd when all the lawyers are available in the hearing and they're partaking in a very long and intensive hearing. These motions should be done orally. Any motion should be done orally because all of the parties are there, and then a decision could be made on the spot. Instead, the commission has asked that any motion you have goes in writing. And so commission ends 8 o'clock. It's actually still going now. Then you're supposed to draft a motion, and then we're just waiting on it. On such a condensed time frame, it just seems silly. So we had a motion that was prepared last week, and it concluded on Thursday, and we hadn't heard back from the commission about whether or not those redactions were proper. And Brendan was kind of pushing the subject on Tuesday, got told to leave the room, and then surprise, surprise, we actually got the decision. But it's so late in the game. And then in that decision, you see that the commissioner said that the parliamentary privilege doesn't apply. And so because it's not, nobody knows anything about it. They just kind of threw that on, labeled it on some of the black documents. So we've said we want any documents that have parliamentary privilege written on it, that stuff should be unredacted and provided to the parties. And we shouldn't even ask about this. And this has become so much like the commission is meant to structure the process and ensure that it's accountable and transparent and fair to all parties. And we're really seeing how it's playing out. And I still want to go back to the redactions, because solicitor-client privilege was on quite a number of them. And yesterday with Lamedi, he said, did you give advice to your client about waiving the privilege? Especially when, we now know that they're using the legal argument of what a national security threat is as the basis for enacting it. So Canada should have the right to know what their legal advice was. The protesters waived their solicitor-client privilege, and that's why Keith Wilson was able to be completely transparent and open on the stand, because the purpose of this process is the truth. But it seems that Canada isn't very comfortable giving the truth, so they're really providing lots of late disclosure. The commission is allowing that. When we're challenging on why this is going in, they just say, deal with it. Basically, that's what's happening. And when we're challenging on the redactions, they're getting back to us late in the game.
Now, it seems to be going a lot to the opposite of what Justin Trudeau. Here's his tweet from back in October 18th of 2015, where he said, I'm voting for an open and honest, transparent government. well, this isn't what we got with this government at all. And it's becoming really frustrating. Now, one of the big things that we were trying to find out in this inquiry was, well, a lot of names have been hurled at the protesters. They're being called occupiers, terrorists, Nazis, all of this stuff before they even got there, before they even arrived. And we wanted to get to the bottom of certain individuals who were on the scene on the first day before the truckers had arrived, or when the first few people came in there. And then the whole reputation was smeared in the media at that point. So getting to the bottom of that, I think, is from the purview of all the people who supported the convoy here at this point. Not just the participants, but people all over Canada want to hear about this. Now, one thing I found interesting was the Prime Minister's office. So the bureaucrats that are there, they're not officials. They're not part of the cabinet. They're, had redactions on the things that they had said. But one thing that really struck my interest was the fact that they talked about a convoy that was happening in the U.S. simultaneously, while we were having all these worries and what they were going to do about the convoy here, and they were getting pressure from the U.S. at the time. Now, what they failed to mention was that the convoy had actually met with senators in the United States, and they resolved this peacefully, and there was no issue, despite what happened on this side of the border.
Yeah, 100%. And this is the frustration, and I want to go back to it, saying fair and honest and accountable. Do you honestly think that hundreds and thousands of Canadians would come to Ottawa in the dead of winter if they felt that their government was being open, honest, and transparent? I think not. So what I want to say is, I'm so tired of the federal government pointing fingers at everyone else and not looking in the mirror at what was going on. And that goes to exactly what you're saying. So short-sighted and so much in a bubble that they couldn't even figure out how to talk to their own Canadians. And that is so incredibly wrong. In the United States, like you said, they sat down and they met with people. Way to shut out your constituents, way to shut out Canadians. You're doing exactly the opposite of what you are intended to do as an elected official and as a public servant.
Now, Chrystia Freeland, when she was asked about the economic measures, they call it, the freezing of people's bank accounts, seizing of people's assets, she gave a greater good argument for when they were particularly asking about, well, what if you freeze the assets of individuals who have children, people who have elderly that live with them, people who are relying on this money that's in their bank accounts to pay their bills, pay their heat, pay for groceries in this time. She gave a greater good argument. Now, is greater good part of our law? Is the greater good something that's considered when in the legal world? I have no idea how this works.
Well, that's how they've been getting away with some of their overreaching and their restrictions. When we talk about the charter, there's a section 1 is whether or not they have, if the good is greater, that's the balance. You have to look at the balance, but not on freezing of bank accounts. That's not how it works. And actually, something I wanted to mention is she was like, well, it was only 50 that we did it to. So
what if it was one? It doesn't matter. This is one individual's rights. It should be protected.
But what was the point? The point was to disperse the protest. So if you did it to 50 people, there weren't 50 people at the protest. That's what I'm getting at too, is that if you're using that as a measure because you believe as a government that was the right thing to do, why did you do it to 50 people? Why didn't you do it? And I'm obviously not suggesting she ought to have,
right.
But where is the rationale? Where is this? It's just so picky, choosy, what works here or there, zero accountability, zero common sense most of the time. But yeah, let's do it to 50 people. And then everyone's going to leave.
Well, most of us are afraid because this is the acts of a dictator to be arbitrary, pernicious,
Yes.
use this type of act where it feels like there's no rule of law. You're not breaking any laws, and people come with a punishment before they come with a judicial review of what it is that you did.
And you said it very well. It feels like there's no rule of law because they're making it up as they go on, Clyde. So that's what they did with the freezing of accounts. They made it up. They didn't have a court order. What are they doing now with the national security threat? They're making it up. They've turned an intelligence issue, a policing issue, into a legal issue. What is the definition under the Emergencies Act of national security threat? And is that different than the one from CSIS? And maybe if it isn't, then the CSIS one should be broader because times have changed. So it's a legal thing.
But don't you have to bring that to legislation prior to the situation?
You sure do. And that's why I'm saying like you said it very well. It feels like there is no rule of law because they are making it up as they go.
Well, I hope that we can have some more people look at this act before it ever gets used again, at least amended in some way so that we can't have this. Thank you so much, Eva Chipiuk, for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you guys for joining in for this entire charade, I guess you could call it. What do we call this? Do we call this an actual commission? I'm not sure at this point. You let me know. Let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what you're thinking along the lines of this whole thing. Today, when you guys are watching this, it'll be Justin Trudeau on the stand, and we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.